You are listening to Learning the Language of A Course in Miracles so you can understand the meaning, embody the message, and live the teachings as a way of life. Welcome to episode 42 of this podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Jennifer McSween, creator of this podcast, and the Course in Miracles practice coach for taking those who are studying the Course from information to application. The topic of this week's episode is the meaning of the Course's teaching, everything is either an expression of love or a call for love, help, or healing. A Course in Miracles is consistent and single-minded in its purpose of teaching us to experience miracles instead of misery, individually, in our relationships, and in the various encounters we have in our lives and in the world. This teaching, when fully understood, will liberate and empower us to transform the way we look at and relate to ourselves, each other, and the things that we see and experience in the world, so that we can experience the miracles instead of misery the Course aims to teach. Seeing everything as either an expression of love or a call for love, help, or healing is another teaching that is unique to A Course in Miracles, and it is key to having genuine compassion for others, what the Course calls true empathy. So you become less judgmental. You become more able to recognize your oneness and your equality with all others. It also is key to not taking things personally, so you don't feel attacked or victimized by the words or actions of others. And it is essential in helping us to remember the truth about what we are and what is really taking place in every moment or experience, so that you're able to feel safe, empowered, and at peace, regardless of the presence of circumstances, conditions, or other people that might appear to be threatening or to behave in unloving or threatening and victimizing in a victimizing manner. In other words, you don't feel victimized or oppressed by anything or anyone. Now, we operate in the world from the perspective that thoughts, words, and actions have individualized different specific meanings. They have power, they have substance. And let me give you an idea of what I mean by that. We believe that we can think one thing and say something or act in a manner that's contrary to what we're thinking. A commonly heard and often used expression that is viewed in the world as age-old wisdom is that actions speak louder than words. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say this with some sort of profundity and thinking that, it has meant something, that something that someone has done or the way they're behaving is contrary or is giving them some kind of information or insight into what is real and true about this situation or this person. And because from the perspective of the world, form and content are seen as different things, and form is seen as having power and meaning in and of itself, the way something is said or done, the manner or the form in which anything or anyone appears, not only matters to us, but, like I said, we think it tells us something. And this is the basis of all the judgments we so routinely make, whether, it's about appearance, personality, behavior, lifestyle, and even the challenges, the types of challenges and experiences, struggles that come into our lives and those of others. We think those have some meaning in and of themselves. This tendency to judge, though, and see differences in forms as having power and meaning and even substance in and of themselves is really the reflection of the ego thought system in operation, telling us that what we see in different forms is real. But from the perspective of the Course, what we see in different forms is not real. It is false evidence you are accepting as real. What it really is nothing but some form in which a thought of fear is manifesting or taking form or showing up. Now, the Course rests on the premise that love is all there is. Only love is real, and our true nature is love. The Course also teaches that everything happens in the mind and is extended or projected outward in some form. It will also be seen and experienced according to the manner in which it is perceived in your mind. This is based on another teaching that's unique to A Course in Miracles, which is that projection makes perception. The corollary to that in the world is that we're governed by the law of attraction. Well, from the Course's perspective, all that is taking place is the principle of projection. Things are happening in the mind and being projected outwards in different forms. We're not ever attracting anything from the world into our lives because there is nothing out there to attract. Everything happens in the mind. That's all I'm going to say about that. So this is the operating principle, the principle that projection makes perception. This is the operating principle behind the teaching that everything is either an expression of love or a call for love, help, or healing. Because this means that if love is all there is and everything happens in the mind, that is, everything is perceived in the mind and then gets projected outward in some form, all we're ever really metaphorically doing, quote unquote, is perceiving thoughts of love, and then those thoughts of love get projected outward onto the different forms and appear to be outside us, and then we should or to experience them in some form of love. Because again, remember, nothing is really being done on the level of the world or outside of the mind in any form. All that we see in any form are the projected images of thoughts and ideas within the mind. So keeping this in mind, no pun intended, is what will help you to understand what the Course means by and why everything is either an expression of love or a call for love, help, and healing. When we are accepting the Holy Spirit's thought system of oneness and love as the truth of what we are and what is real, we're fully aware that love is all there is and we are one with it. We will therefore see and interpret and experience everything from a perspective of love, oneness, and wholeness. Because love is the nature of the content of the thoughts within the mind. And since as you think, so you experience, you will see and experience everything in some form of love. And this is also what will allow you to see attack as a call for love, help, or healing in that teaching of the Course. In last week's episode, number 41, about healing in A Course in Miracles, I talked about the fact that it is always and only the mind that is in need of healing. Even though sickness might be showing up in different forms in the body, this is because the real sickness is in the mind in the form of a thought of fear. And the thought of fear is basically any thought that you are accepting to be real that isn't, or that is not in alignment with the truth. Those fear-based or unreal thoughts, complements of the ego thought system, are then projected onto the different forms of illness, into the different forms of illnesses or sickness that show up in our bodies. And I also shared that healing is not about curing, changing, or getting rid of the sick condition from the body, but healing the mind of the belief that sickness in any form is real and or that it poses a threat to the real you or whomever appears to be sick in any way. The Course is teaching that everything is an expression of love or a call for love, help, or healing can be seen as another way for us to practice healing our minds and extending healing to others. In the words of that teaching, we're being told that love is all there is. We're being reminded of the nature of love, of our oneness with it, and that we can extend and express it, but never be separate from it or lose it in any way. So when someone is behaving in an unkind, unloving, or even violent manner, for that matter, regardless of the form of their actions, and it looks like an attack, the Course says it's a call for love, and it's our opportunity to extend love. Because what it means is that this person, or all that it means, is that this person in that moment or situation is someone who is perceiving themselves as something separate from love. They're entertaining the misperception or the thought of fear that they can be deprived of love. Because regardless of the form of what it is you feel you're lacking, or what you think or feel is victimizing you in any situation, the real issue is never the problem. The problem or the real issue is that you, in that moment, are feeling separate from love. Your response to that person then the course is teaching is that regardless of how they're acting or behaving, what the form of perceived attack may be, is not to judge or counterattack, but to extend the love of which they feel they have been deprived. Because that is the only thing we can ever really do, quote unquote, extend love or express love, because that's all there is. And by the same token, the same approach or response is to be taken towards yourself whenever you find yourself feeling attacked or victimized, and or engaging in some form of counterattack, seeing it as a justified form of defense because you perceive yourself as having been attacked first and or deprived in some way. So in this case, you're the one calling for love, help, or healing, and so you remind yourself of the truth, and in so doing, you extend love to yourself so that you can experience the love that deep down is what you feel you're lacking, that is the cause of your feeling attacked or victimized or deprived. Now, this is why I said at the beginning that this teaching is so conducive to learning to experience miracles instead of misery that the Course aims to teach. Because at its core, practicing looking at everything as either an expression of love or a call for love and healing is really an exercise in practicing forgiveness, which, as the Course teaches, is the means to miracles. So that's it for this week. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Understanding the Language of A Course in Miracles podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful, please leave me a review on iTunes so that others can hear about it, enjoy it, and find it helpful also. And if you have not yet done so, do subscribe so that you don't miss another episode. Have a great week, and see you on the podcast next Wednesday.